you. Thanks, Amy. Welcome to the Cali County Office of Education Innovation Hub. This is our last meeting for our 22-23 Community of Practice. We're excited to have you with us today. I'm Crystal Starr Howe. I'm from the San Diego County Office of Ed, and I get to kick you off today. So I'm so excited. I don't know if any of you see Sandra Boynton, but her calendar is one of the most important calendars in my home. And today is National Eat What You Want Day, which frankly, I look forward to every year. And it starts with nacho cheese and it ends with chocolate. So I'm super excited about that for me. I want to know what you all want to eat. Since it's National Eat What You Want, what is it that you would want today? Go ahead and drop that in the chat for us. I love the specificity. Very nice. Mariano, definitely some Thai food. I love it. So awesome. I'm trying to think how many of these we can combine together. I could definitely have some tortillas with Thai food, maybe some chocolate on the side. All right, so hopefully if you see anybody today that's feeling a little down, you can remind them that it's the day that they get to eat whatever they want. And that might make them a little more chipper as they're getting through this May day, which is very gray here in San Diego. We have our lovely agenda for you today so that you all can follow along with what we're doing. We are going to be thinking about how do we frame environmental literacy and sustainability when we work with districts? What are those entry points to conversations with districts that we might have? How do we leverage awards programs in districts in our county offices? You'll have some time for regional breakouts as well as breakouts along the way there. And then our closing today, we have lots of fun information to share with you about opportunities alongside I hope that you will help us with a survey to make sure that we are prepared to meet your needs in the next academic year. And we acknowledge that we are residing on the land of California peoples of the past, present, and future. One really great way that we can honor the presence and lives of the California Indians that we think about are to think about what are they doing in their lives, what are their contributions in the classroom. And Debbie Reese has created a book list that has American Indians that are in children's literature that can be used in the classroom to help think about books. These are a couple titles here on the slide, but if you want to take a quick click on the link that Katie put in the chat, you can just glance through some of those titles that she has and share with us in the chat if there's anything that stands out to you as something you might want to bring into your work or the classroom. All right. So hopefully that's just enough time for you to get that open and say, oh, I definitely want to spend some time with this later. And I'm going to send you over to Katie.
Thanks, Crystal. I think we've kind of done that part. Yeah, there we go. Thanks. Wow, we're racing through. Okay, so one of the things on our agenda was wanting to talk about how do we frame conversations with our schools and districts around environmental literacy and sustainability. And so there are several different ways that we can actually go about doing that. The first way that we have is really looking at the sustainable practices and looking at environmental impacts and costs. So we have things like energy, water, waste, transportation. And with those, we can have conversations around how do we start to bring down our footprint, our environmental footprint as a school or as a school district. Our next slide, thanks. So when we think about green, sustainable, and climate-ready schools, as I just said, we really want to think about the footprint that our schools are creating. It's amazing how much the K-12 system actually produces, or sorry, the environmental impact our K-12 system has on the environment. We have one of the largest transportation systems when we start to think about busing. We have all of the meals that our schools produce and the food waste that's there. So we want to have those conversations, possibly with facilities, with operational managers. So how do we start to reduce the emissions of greenhouse gases, have a footprint that's actually in balance, and start thinking about ways and actions that we can start reducing those negative impacts on our climate. And we can do this a couple of ways. The first is looking at capital investments. So as I said, that really is having conversations with some of our facilities. And if you can go to the next slide, Crystal, thanks. Looking at just simple things like, do you have paper towels or hand dryers? The rainwater catchment. A lot of our schools, especially in very urban areas, have a lot of problems with standing water on our campuses due to having so much concrete there. So how can we start to have conversations around rainwater catchment and that use of the rainwater? California, we're very fortunate to have solar panels in a lot of places, and a lot of schools are starting to look at different ways to bring that onto our campuses. So we can have these conversations or enter into conversations around the sustainability practices that are happening within schools. The other thing that we can do is have a conversation around supporting behavior changes. And I really love these because this is a lot of our students get excited about this. A lot of our students really want to start recycling clubs on campus. Our kiddos want to make sure that there's refillable water stations because they see all of those plastic water bottles around campus. So we want to be able to have conversations around how do we help schools support behavior changes. We can also actually then start looking very closely at how we're shifting the trends towards sustainability and climate-ready schools. And these are 3 different reports, kind of at different entry levels. There's the U.S. Department of Education Climate Adaptation Plan. That's looking at things from a very systematic lens and looking at things very nationwide. There's also the K-12 Climate Action. If there's one out of these, I dug into this and went down a rabbit hole, and it is absolutely fantastic report that I would highly recommend reading. It has mitigation. It also has different action steps to take. So it's not a doom and gloom. It's like, really, how are we here to help? And how can we help our schools? And then a lot of times when talking with schools and school districts, they just want to know, what is the law? They need the nitty gritty. What do I need to do? Why do I need to do it? When do I need to do it by? And so that third website, the California Mandates, Policies, and Expectations, will give you that list of that nitty gritty. So that first way that we can start to have conversations or enter into the conversations is really looking at our facilities and our practices within our schools. That doesn't always jazz everybody, so sometimes we have to have a different entry point. So another way we can start to have conversations is thinking about health and wellness. And we want to, as the last we wanted to decrease, this we want to increase our health and wellness efforts within our school districts. The first way that we can look at this is specifically through environmental health. And when we look at our environmental health, there's different ways that we can have that conversation. A lot of these really do dovetail nicely, and you'll see that a lot of them do, with our facilities. So we want to think about the indoor air quality that's going on, asthma control, chemical management. So really, how are we maintaining the facilities that we have and making sure that the air that kiddos are breathing, the water that they're drinking, that they are in a safe and environmentally appropriate school system. The EPA, the last link that's on that Amity put into the chat, the EPA Environmental Health is a really lovely resource to start to dig into each one of these a little bit deeper. So we want to make sure that our kids have safe buildings, but we also want to make sure that their bodies, their minds are also safe. And we want to look at that entry point through nutrition and fitness. So there's a lot of things around food and nutrition, and that's been around for a long time. We also really want to start thinking about how we are getting our kids outside, not just for the fitness aspects, but we all know that social emotional learning that sense of joy and starting to bring down the stress level is when we get our kids outside, whether it's doing some sort of experimentation, or it's using our campus as a laboratory for learning, but it's also just having conversations outside. So looking at how often do we allow our kids to get that fresh air? And then also thinking about a coordinated school system, health system. So how are all of your things working together to help kids with their mental health, with their physical health, and not just our students, but also our staff, because we all know how stressed we get. So we want to make sure that we're looking at things through everybody on campus. So we have our facilities, we have taken care of our facilities and our people. Then we could have our conversation through curriculum and instruction. So we want to make sure that we are increasing that environmental literacy through STEM, history, social science, civic knowledge. I will also shout from the rooftops through ELA and through math. And really, it is an avenue that we can teach everything through. This is the one I think a lot of us are the most comfortable with having conversations with our schools or districts. We do have 2 resources that we've put together over the past couple of years that could be ways to start the conversation with educators and with districts. The first is the State Seal of Civic Engagement for Environmental Literacy Implementation Guide. And yes, that is a huge mouthful, but it's a resource that looks at that State Seal of Civic Engagement and how students can start to really think about civic learning and civic engagement, even from our earliest ages. So we know that the State Seal is it's given at the high school level, but some of our earliest learners are some of our best advocates for things, because it's hard to turn down a second grader or a first grader that's telling you that we need recycling on campus. So that may be a way to start a conversation. The other is the teacher call to action for environmental literacy. This is also another way if educators are not quite sure where to start or why they should. This guide will also help them with that. And as I've said, there are lots of ways that we can enter into some of these conversations, and a lot of them overlap. So if we're thinking about health and wellness, and we're thinking about indoor air quality, well, that actually is also the environmental impacts and costs. And we also could do it, depending upon the grade level, actually dig into and have that be a part of the curriculum, thinking about air quality. So it's a nice way to have dovetail a lot of different things together to have a whole picture of our students' environmental experience in their schools. And I just did a lot of talking, which is not something that I ever like to do. So what we would love for you to do is to think about these entry points. And where do you see yourself in each of those categories? Which category might you leverage the most? Because we all know there's certain people that we know in certain places that you're like, wow, if we just show them these mandates, then action could start taking place. Where is your entry point among the categories to support your districts? And then what leverage points do you have with districts in that category? So it's really just, how do you see yourself in those conversations? What we're going to do is we're going to allow you to have select breakout rooms. And this is going to be selecting breakout rooms based on your job description, because we know that we have folks in here that do curriculum and instruction. We know we have folks in here that really are our expanded learning places. We would hope we've got some facility folks in here. I'm going to cross my fingers. We have individuals that work with our community-based partners. So we want you to think about, in your role with the people that you typically work with, how can you see yourself in those categories, and really what might you leverage to start the conversation? And we're going to let you pick, and you'll have 15 minutes in those groups. And if you need help getting into a group, please let us know. We're happy to help.
Please add your entry point ideas in the Jamboard.
Oh, I forgot about that part. Oopie.
It's okay. It went in the chat. People understand.
Getting myself organized after writing down some notes, so I will join in shortly.
Sure. Take your time. All right, I think I'm going to go and join one of these. I'm going to go into curriculum instruction and talk with Peggy and Mariano.
I will go to a different one then. Let's see, where do they need people?
Looks like expanded learning or curriculum instruction are the two that had.
Yeah, it's just the two.
And Shanann and Alexis, not sure if you needed to step away for a second or if you need help getting to a room.
I'm just visiting for today. I don't know if I should be in a room or not.
Go for it. Yeah, go. You should go. Definitely go chat.
Okay, thanks.
I don't know if you guys know Alexis. She's a Cali member from the Community-Based Partner Innovation Hub, and she is leading the Climate Corps Fellowship thing that we're doing.
Awesome.
And so I said, I wasn't sure when we were going to speak. So Alexis, it's at the end, but great for you to be here and see who the, potential partners are.
And I see there's a CBP room, but it looks like folks aren't in it. So I'll join curriculum and instruction.
Sounds good. Oh, I could pause, huh?
Just going to put the recording back on. Oh,
Got it. Thanks. Hope you guys had great conversations in there. We didn't want to bring you back too early. I was a complete Dingeldorf and forgot to give you access, or Crystal put it in very late, the access to the Jamboard, which had really fun backgrounds on it, place for you to capture your notes on things. Please feel free to go back there and put some ideas that you had on that, whatever works best for you and your group. I am gonna turn it over to Amity now, who's going to start talking about some of the awards and recognitions that you can use also to have conversations around environmental literacy and sustainability.
And I just wanted to share out a couple ideas though, first from our breakout room with the whole group, because I think it was nice to hear thoughts, and we've got a couple extra minutes if other groups had any like super big ahas, but a couple things got shared in our room that we were pretty excited about in the curriculum and instruction entry point. An idea of doing a survey around the state of teacher ed programs and what kind of specific courses already exist or being developed that provide environmental literacy context in their training programs for teachers. There are quite a few out there already that were mentioned by Peggy, and those traditional methods courses, if it's just like expected to be in there, are super limiting, and so some programs have their own courses, and to look at that was one idea. And then another that came up was that districts are doing a lot of spending down of their money that they got for materials, and are often looking at finally purchasing materials for their adopting science and history, and there's an opportunity there to go in and support implementation through an environmental literacy lens to make it all more integrated if you're trying to tackle both of those at once and have it make sense and not have it be cohesive. Yeah, loved those ideas. Thanks to the group. Did anybody have anything else they want to quick share out before I move into our next section?
I'll just share really quick on behalf of Expanded Learning. There's a lot of possibilities with after school and summer programs. So I'll just leave it at that without going into a lot of detail.
Yeah.
But because the connections are endless. But just one really quick low-hanging fruit example is we do a lot of professional development with our Expanded Learning staff, and how do we really look at making all of our in-person events zero waste and really being committed to that to be good examples. That's hugely important. And so Letty and I in Region 5 will have a Rev Up Expanded Learning Conference in September, and we're doing our darndest to make that event with 500 to 600 people be zero waste at a high school campus that currently does not recycle.
All right. Well, I'm here for you, Mara. I saw your RFP too. All right. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for this next section. All righty. So we were just hearing from Katie in that wonderful revisiting of the pillars and the framework that we've talked about through this community of practice. We wanted to bring it back all together as we're nearing the end of this year. And those, I just wanted to remind people, are the pillars from the Green Ribbon Schools program. And so we thought this would be a good opportunity right now to just talk a little bit about leveraging recognition programs and what that can do for a county office of ed. So I'm going to take you all on a little quick trip along the journey that Santa Cruz COE has been on, and just let you know that a lot of these things, I'm being vulnerable here. These are things that are like in progress and messy and still in development. But I know it always helps me to have people share how the work is actually getting done on the ground, And so I wanted to just do a little storytelling and then give you time in between to share what's going on in your world. So my journey began with our decision, which was inspired by San Mateo County Office of Ed's success with the Green Ribbon Schools recognition program from CDE, to apply for the Green Ribbon recognition. And that was back in the 2022 application round in the fall. And so at the start of that work, as the environmental literacy coordinator at my county office of ed, I'm housed in the curriculum and instruction department within educational services. And I had little to zero experience with facilities sustainability and that whole pillar. Andra, coming to San Mateo, actually had come with a bunch of experience from a sustainability role she had had previously. So I was intimidated, but also wanted to see if we were walking the talk that I was talking out there with the districts. And so I worked on this application in 2022 that ultimately led to us getting silver recognition that spring. And the process was really powerful, not for the recognition. I mean, that was awesome, but it really surprised me that we were silver. Like, I hadn't known half of what we were doing sustainability wise until I had been forced to go and find the information, which made me realize that no one at our county office really knew, because if anybody would know, it should have been me. And so that was really amazing, because we could communicate that out to our staff and really start to have a huge awareness shift in our among our organization staff, and get buy-in and pride around like just changing our identity. And it helped me find allies and champions across the whole COE and different departments, and helped me make connections outside of curriculum and instruction. And I learned a lot about actual greening of facilities that is now really useful when I'm working with the schools. And it introduced me to new partners outside of the COE. So I'd been working in Santa Cruz County in environmental education for years and had a huge network of partners, I felt like, but they were different partners that I ran into because of having to do these all three pillars. And one of those partners was the California Green Business Network, which has a green business certification program that they help businesses across the state to get green business certified. And so that was exciting to meet that partner. Before I move on to telling that little bit of the story, I just wanted to invite people to share who here has applied or considered applying for Green Ribbon for their COE. And do you have any districts that you think might be interested if they were supported or encouraged to apply? And feel free to unmute and talk. We're a pretty small group. You can do that, or you can stick it in the chat. Just getting a sense of where people are at with Green Ribbon. And that link there, it's linked in the slides, and then Katie added it. It's just to CDE's basic page for Green Ribbon, but we will be providing a bunch more tailored resources for Green Ribbon for COEs just at the end of this section. All right, so not seeing anything about Green Ribbon yet. Feel free to have a chat dialogue going, but I'll move on to sharing about the next phase of our journey. So I started the Green Business Certification process, which is 58 different measures across energy, water, waste, transportation, pollution prevention, community stewardship, and maybe a couple more. And it mirrors the process that green schools have to go through to become green school certified in our county. So I decided to do the green business certification because I knew it would help me gather data for the green ribbon schools. So I started doing them concurrently. And then I also knew I would get a window into what it's like to become a green school certified school. That's a program run by our county public works office, not the county office of education. And we'd already been a supporter of the Green Schools program in that we would help promote it to our districts. But working with the business from the California Green Business Network, Environmental Innovations, working with them on our certification helped us strengthen that partnership. And our organizations began looking at how we could integrate the curriculum pillar work that we're doing at our county office in a meaningful way with their Green Schools program, which is really focused on the greening of the campus facilities. And that led to the idea of creating a recognition program at a more individual level of classrooms and teachers to recognize the champions that are already out there prioritizing sustainability, and that by recognizing them, that we could hopefully inspire others to follow in their footsteps and build capacity of schools to move into getting green school recognition, if that makes sense. And so for that section, I'll just add the links to, I'm not going to go and share them because they're not pretty and they're not super exciting, the Green Business Network, but it is good information to have because you can look up, like, who's the representative in your region, because they provide the support for free in my region. I think they provide it free everywhere. They helped with the audits. They did so much for me. So, and then our Green County program. And just wondering, invite you all to think about whether you have a relationship with your city government or county public works, or maybe it's an office of sustainability in any way with your county office of education. And does your municipality run a Green Schools program, or might they be interested in supporting one and partnering on one? So that's an invitation to think about that. And feel free to unmute and chat or put something in the chat. And then as you're thinking, I'm going to move on to the next part of my journey from the Green Schools program to that individual level recognition. So when we got the Green Ribbon Award, there was a lot of momentum because of that among our staff, since it was directed at us as an organization. And so we decided to actually develop a pilot program for that individual level recognition with our own staff before creating a classroom and teacher level program. So I'm going to actually show you what we have now at our county, which is in its early phases. Like, we just launched this in early 2023. And so I'm actually already looking at ways that it's going to change. But the idea is that you can't just green your facility, you have to change your behaviors. There's a certain point where that's the only way things will continue to get better. And so this program it's pretty simple. It invites people to take a challenge where they can get recognition by making a commitment to these 25 to 45 criteria that you would do in your workspace. And they're from like very simple things like committing to turning out the lights when you leave a room, stuff that you think is a no-brainer. So people can feel like, oh, I'm already doing stuff, to things that are more complicated to make a commitment to. And so then when they decide how many they're going to commit to, they get certification or recognition at a different level. So people can also grow from the past. And so there's a checklist of items that they would commit to, like making sure that the bulbs in their personal lighting that they bring in are LED bulbs, and using a power strip to unplug or to turn off devices when they're not in use overnight, to the easy ones I was mentioning. There's water savings, transportation, recycling and plastics reduction. And so all of these are aligned to the kinds of tasks that are expected when you do that green certification. And then there's support resources for the staff, and then the people who do it for a year will then be put up here as the champions. So that's that program's concept in a nutshell. And from that, we created a similar program. You can see, same template, Google, love Google Sites, for teachers for their classroom. And with this one, it's a little different because having 40 criteria and talking to kindergartners is not going to work. So what this one asks is the teacher provides class information, and then they choose on the form what sustainable practices their class already practices. And then they choose 5 new actions that they're not doing currently that they will commit to for the school year, no matter what grade they are. So it's a similar checklist system. And this one's different though, and that feedback came from our partner agency that we're working with, to have them say first what they're already doing in their classroom, and then track the new actions separately. So then they get like a certificate that says we do all these things because we're a green classroom and these are what we're working on. And that the idea is that that becomes a talking point for them to share, for students as well as teachers to share why those actions make a difference. And that other people will learn like, oh, I didn't know that was important, and that it will inspire other classrooms to do it. And that can be an easy way in for growing interest in greening work for teachers. And let me just put those links in the chat. And the reflection question for that little section is, what teacher or staff recognition programs already exist at your county office or in your schools that might be able to either integrate sustainability? Like, we have staff recognition. The simplest thing you can do is just add a green champion recognition at your COE first, and then not have something as complex as this. Or do you have a model of a recognition program existing for some other type of work that could be replicated for sustainability and greening? So think about that question. And I'll just move on here to our Every Classroom a Green Classroom program. So the idea with that Green Classroom Challenge, some of the challenges in there are for teachers to think about whether their classroom might want to take on a more project-based action project. And to support that work, we launched this January a Teacher Leadership Institute for Sustainability. That is a deeper professional learning program to develop teacher leaders across our county at all our school sites that have this shared understanding of sustainability frameworks, of the 3 pillars, and have had support in developing a classroom level action project that is connected to their instructional content that they already are teaching in any content area. So the idea that that action project is not just like another thing for them to do, but that it's actually accomplishing their instructional goals. And that that then when they do those projects in this institute, we capture their stories of how they did it. Because the first question we get from these teachers who come to this program and are eager to do this work is like, how do you do it? Like, show me how it's done. And I have to tell them, like, you're the ones that, like, we are going to show how it's done. And so, oh, It went through. I did not mean to go there. I wanted to go to this. Okay. And so part of the program is that they finish by creating a green classroom project profile that shares their project. And I just shared this one earlier this morning with Amy, or last night, I don't know. And this is a lovely template that I borrowed from Andra's work at San Mateo. So, you know, this is how we share and learn. So I adapted this template for my use. And so every one of the teachers that participated, 100% stuck with it and did it through the storms, through everything. I'm just so amazed by these teachers. This is Margaret Starrett. She's a newer English teacher at Harbor High and teaching AP English back, or not AP, back, they're AB, they're the International Baccalaureate program, IB program now. They just changed over. But so she has pretty strict testing and guidelines for what she has to do. And she put together an amazing project that focused on environmental identity of students and them understanding and thinking about how environmental identity develops and looking at examples in literature and having time outside. She integrated it into a unit in their science fiction that's told from this perspective of an endangered species, the story, and then developed a nature journaling unit where they analyzed John Muir Law's blogs and then planned a field trip to the redwoods. And she also integrated a lot of outdoor time, just going outside to read, which led to this idea of the continuum of integration of environmental literacy. And I just wanted to make sure to mention this because it came back from all the teachers in the program a lot, that this was what helped them stay positive and feel hopeful, and it was because we talked about how it's equally important to have teachers represented on all areas of this continuum if we're going to have systemic change. If you had only teachers telling stories that were on this, like, wow, we're doing full project-based learning, solutionary stuff, it's in every part of our curriculum all day long, then a lot of teachers would look at that and be disheartened and feel they're not doing enough. They feel guilty and don't think they can ever do it. And so it's just as important to have the folks who are like, you know, I think I can add in taking our students outside to do their reading and talking explicitly about why being outside builds environmental identity, which leads to stewardship, and that just these simple actions have an impact. And so having those stories are just as important, and then having the ways people can grow as they continue to implement over the years. So that was a part of that. And before I close this section, I just wanted to come back to how it all started, sort of with the recognition idea, and trying to be more use it as an opportunity to share the stories, because I've been doing this work for a while, and one thing I know is in education is really bad at marketing and sharing the success stories. None of us are trained to do it. We're not given time to do it. And recognition programs are kind of like the marketing you can do to share and be like, wow, look at these amazing teachers doing these amazing things. And so Callie has refreshed some of the resources that were shared earlier about Green Ribbon, and there's now a statewide working group for Green Ribbon that has its last meeting coming up June 1st. Anyone's welcome to join those meetings, so the information to join is there. And then these resources are a nice overview of like where we're at in terms of who's taking part in that program across the state, and then these project management tools and templates that you can use to actually work on an application for Green Ribbon or support a district in applying. And all of those things are inside this folder. So that's it. That's the end of my story. Thank you all for listening. You were also quiet with my questions, but I know it's Zoom and it's the morning on Thursday, so I'm going to hand it over for our next section to Nate.
All right. Thank you, Amity. We were all listening raptly. I know the silence is, you always wonder, but we're right here with you, Amity. And we're moving into breakouts, and maybe they're regional. I'd actually like to skip ahead 2 slides and have a little conversation about how to best do that. This is what we'll be talking about, and the plan was to do it regionally, and we can still do that. So sharing some ideas back on the Jamboard, there are frame 6 and beyond have room for that. And looking at things like, what have your entry points into environmental literacy with districts been in your county? What's getting you in the door with the districts? How might we lean into some of the spaces that are in our area? And again, that can be region, that can be your area. And who can we partner with? Amity talked a lot about partnerships and shifting partnerships. And so who could we partnership maybe that we haven't thought of, or maybe we haven't started really engaging with yet? So these would be the questions. And my question for you and for all of us is, what's the best way to do breakouts? I don't know if we already have a system that we've set up we want to stick with, but we have a small number. Do we want to go back to our expanded learning folks? Did you like being together? Would you like to be together again? We could set up 3 rooms, and you could just choose a room and kind of randomly split yourselves up, or we could go by region. I don't know what regions everybody is from. So thoughts on that from the team, but also thoughts on that from participants in particular. How do you want to do the breakouts? This is called wait time.
Well, I'll chime in. Although I don't know how my colleagues are feeling about this, but I just want you to know, Amity, we were on fire in the chat, a couple of us, with like some ideas that we already have. So it'd be awesome if we could go back into an expanded learning breakout, and then we can report back out.
Looked like a lot went on the Jamboard from expanded learning too. And I see a couple thumbs up along with that. So let's do that then. I'm not sure who's creating our rooms, but we just need 2 rooms. Thank you, Amy. I figured it would be you. If you could just do 2 rooms, one's expanded learning, one's all the rest of us, I think that might work. And if anybody has a different breakout you want to do that doesn't fit into those confines, you could stay in the main area, and even another one could be created for you.
All right, well, I have a curriculum plus expanded learning, and I was gonna be called a room 5, but I can't do it. It's the Manzanita room.
Perfect. Perfect. All that works. Thank you so much, Amy. So if we can go, I think that actually covers what we need to do here in terms of our slides, because we're not doing regions, so we don't need the previous slides. So once those are up and ready, we can disappear into those rooms. Remember, you do have your Jamboard. It's the same Jamboard. There you go.
And welcome back. It's good to know that you were having a good conversation in there and getting to use this networking time, which is the point of having a community of practice. So we're really glad that you were able to come together today. We are going to share some closing ideas and some wrap-up stuff just so that you know where we are with closing this year, and then also opportunities that are coming up. So we did kind of want to frame a little bit about where we've been in this journey so far. So these were the topics that we went through in year 1. We were very heavy on a lot of sort of professional learning together and making sure that we were sharing lots of information in year 1 during our community of practice. So thinking through the lens of how our county office of education could support all of these various pieces, and you'll recognize some of them from the green pillars that we were talking about today. And then this year we opted to have 4 meetings just to try to narrow the time, but also give you all a little more time to network within our meetings instead of them being an hour. And you can see where we came back to. And this is our plan right now for 23-24. So we're hoping to see all of you and your coworkers and peers. And we really want to sort of combine the work that we did in year 1 and the work that we did in year 2 together and give a lot of opportunity for both networking and professional learning. And so what we're thinking is that we're just going to have some standing meetings every second Thursday of the month. You can see those listed here. They're going to be from 9 to 11, and that 9 to 10 o'clock hour, that first hour, is going to be a little more formal, and it's going to give us some setup time. 2 months of every quarter will be really around networking. How do we come together in like our roles like we did today and have some conversations with our work? And then the second hour, we're going to bring on our working groups from our County Office of Ed and have a chance to give input from the community of practice to what's going on with those groups and for those groups to connect with our community. And then 1 meeting of every quarter is going to be more of that professional learning. We're going to share information with you, help you understand more about what's going on in the land of California environmental literacy, and then have that second hour again to be optional to come together in team times, regional work, networking groups again, and build that space. So if you wanted to go ahead and really put those into your calendar and have them listed, that way you have them for next year and you know where they stand amongst everything else. It'll start populating that calendar really shortly. I know we're starting to get the September through push of events coming out to us. We also want to and hope to really meet your needs as we're having this time together, especially if it is monthly and having a space where there's both some set time, but some regional time. So there is a survey that is in the chat. It's the first link that Amity put into the chat with you. And we'd love for you to take a couple minutes right now and just go into that survey and take it. And I'm going to be quiet so that you have a couple minutes to do that.
From the expanded learning room and the amazing idea that you guys just had, if you guys think that maybe these meetings are a place that you would continue that work together, feel free to add it there, because I feel like that was the beginning of a whole other working group. As far, I don't even want to say it's too good of an idea and it wasn't mine. So I'll let you guys share about that. All right, so that's a couple minutes. I sang a little song in my head to try to keep from talking at you. So just a few questions there. Hopefully you opened it up and we're able to start working through it. But we also have a lot of other info we want to give you as we are closing out our time together. So again, these are listed. Our registration link for all of next year's meetings is already available, and that's that second link that Amity put in the chat for you. So please go ahead and just get that done now. Get them all on your calendar, and that way you're ready to go for next year, and share that with your colleagues and your peers who you think you might be able to bring into the idea of environmental literacy across your COE. And Alexis is here from SEI, and we'd love to hear a little bit, Alexis, about the opportunity for Climate Corps Fellows at COEs.
Yes, thank you. I'll keep it super brief, but if you're interested in hosting a Climate Corps Fellow, now is the time to really start solidifying that commitment. As a reminder, it's a 10-year fellowship. The Climate Corps Fellows are early career professionals, and they are available to work on any number of sustainability and climate initiatives, ranging from like curriculum and instruction to facilities, and especially with some of the green school stuff that came up earlier. I think that's a great opportunity to not be doing all of that work yourself. So if you're interested, feel free to, you can email either Amy or me. I'll drop my email in the chat. And we're hoping to have a cohort assembled for the fall as kind of a pilot concept where there'd be, specialized kind of training and events available both for hosts, and how to kind of manage an entry-level employee and the opportunity of the fellow. And then of course for fellows to make sure they're on board. And yep, thanks Amy for putting my email in there. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Alexis. And we know those county offices that have had Climate Corps Fellows have really loved the process and felt like they've gotten a lot out of it. So definitely something to jump on if that's possible for you. We also have our District Innovation Hub from Cali offering webinars. And so they still have 2 left this year. You can see those down there. And their recordings and their resources are also linked on the Cali website. And we have our Cali Partner Portal up still, which is really amazing. A lot of our county offices have microsites. And if you wanted to also have a microsite where you could be able to pull all of the programs from your county into one space that you could share with your teachers and districts, let Amy know that's an option. I know I love being able to do that in San Diego, and it's a really great way for me to share the amazing community partners that we have in a clean space with principals who ask me who I would recommend for them to call. We also want to remind you that there's lots of success stories happening in our world. So recently, CTA put out a new statement about environmental education. Their old statement used to be this really brief sentence that they believed environmental education, including climate change, should be integrated across curriculum. And now it is this really robust, amazing paragraph of love regarding what we really want. CTA really wants for environmental education and thinking about climate and human resources and environmental justice. So wanting you to think about how exciting it is that our teachers union in the state is getting behind this and really starting to move this forward. And remind you that we love to hear your successes too. And so we do have a slide deck for our COEs to share this year that people have been adding to as we've been going along. So you can always hop into that, find your county office, make sure your names are on there, and share your successes and challenges so that we can celebrate you or connect to say, oh, I had that challenge too, and I can help you figure out how to solve it because I managed to get through it at my COE. And we really just want to say thank you for your time today from all of us, the COE Innovation Hub. We love getting to work with you and grow our work together. And I'll really, really hope to have reached out and met someone from all 58 county offices in our state in the next couple years. So you know where to find information on us if you need it. We're all here for you. We'll be back with our COP in September. And have a great end of spring and summer.
Thank you.